Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here. We're going to continue playing Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich events installed with that there. Let's get the clock rolling. And immediately, of course, things are needing to be dealt with. Okay. I don't know if we'll be okay there, but I hope. So far, for me at least, this is an exciting game because... Where is this? Wish all these things were smaller. Go to... Here, okay. It will fall back. I put down a few new build divisions right up here that will help. Once they're organized up, they'll help with this northern campaign. Like I say, this is sort of exciting in that it's I'm far from sure if we're going to win, but it's not anywhere near losing, of course. Okay, we've got Baku here, and they call it Baki. I don't know what language that, whether that's more the Russian or more the Azerbaijani or somebody else's, but I know it is Baku. Okay, they were sort of retreating in there, didn't get there, so we're going to attack back out. But we've got Baku, which is a massive oil producer. Well, 16 plus a bunch of these things. Also a lot of factories here, and at least for the moment we're not in danger of losing this and having to fall back to Iran. Could happen, but not at the moment. So we're denying all that to the Soviets, and once we effect the link up, it should help us. Right now, this here in the sort of south central is where we're doing well. We got no opposition, well organized panzer divisions just racing forward. And so what I'm now, it's okay. So my current thoughts are, is like right in here is we're doing really well. We're going to definitely continue pushing forward, but I'm also going to sort of swing down here a little bit to link all this up with these guys here and keep pushing in there. We're catching the army up to the front lines here. So that we can keep pushing here, but we're also doing fairly well on this push forward. It's mostly up here towards Leningrad that I'm most worried about. Okay, Black Sea. Fighter ground control. Okay, well, hope that will continue to hope with our fighter warfare, though we don't have much radar impact on the east because time to build. Still, just as I'm saying this, I'm just meh. I wish I could pre-build radars. That's, look, I get the idea that the AI doesn't do things well. It's why I sort of like the scripted invasions and other scripted events, so that you create a few scripted, if you control this, then drop down radar here kind of things. I think radar should cost. I don't have good personal knowledge on really production costs, if you will, for radar. But so I'm not arguing the point of how much it should cost or whatnot, but just build times are just too long. So I guess what I'm saying, what I would do, I don't know if any of you, because I don't share all my thoughts with the Black Ice team, just too many of them. But the way I would handle this would be is to make the radars, and I have to look back at the time, but I think even more hugely expensive. But and I with the way the AI sticks stuff in the production queue, I don't know if this would work. But hugely expensive, but very short, like a 5 or 10 day build. You know, 20 ICs for 10 days or whatever it would be, that just pops them out quick, but sort of briefly expensive is how I guess I would handle the radar situation. Just for future thoughts. These are all doing pretty good in here. So I'm fairly well satisfied. So I'm going to look here. Okay, we're still moving forward there. Moving forward here. And we wind up here. Cool. Now we're helping the Finns out. That's a useful thing. So are they counterattacking there? Yeah, so let's help out them with the counterattack. I've also sent this guy at just starting out, just before the episode, to invade there. Invade up to here. Okay, good. Yes, as we've discussed on the message forum, I do tend to use my divisions maybe a little too, or my HQs a little too much like divisions, but often it's just because they're the ones that are there. Okay, these guys. I'm going to send them into the swamp. They're swamp fighters. Yeah, well, we're coming back. You chased the Romanians out. Oh, good. If we can get to Dawn. Or, Rostov on Dawn. That'd be a good city to get and dive them another port. See if we... No. Who's in the way? Oh, they're in the way. That's what I have you guys there for, is to kill those damn ships. These guys. And these guys. See, they're trying to shift armor down in front of me, so I'm keeping pushing up against them to keep these guys off balance. No, you need to attack here. Well, they're gonna win that battle. You know, it's a negative 99. Or just because they're gonna flash out. You're too close to shattering. You're losing organization, but okay. You're crossing the river, so we're going to stop that. I'll build the transportation unit. The transportation regiment takes Tallinn. I just using it because it was fast and thought I would sort of occupy, but they actually take Tallinn. That's funny. That's funny. Maybe I should have a few more, break off a few more transportation units and just race across the Soviet Union. Zapping up all the empty space. Because getting places like that, but that is funny. Oh good, we also, okay, you don't need to go south anymore. You're going north. Yeah, you're going up there too. We'll just take that. See, Azov, of course, hopefully we're getting those guys, but I don't even want them to sally forth. Okay, we're winning, we're winning. See, we're winning all these battles, but it's just a devious Soviet plan to suck us in deeper, and then they're gonna spawn a bunch of units and kill me. Okay, we have, I think that's just taking more and more leadership provinces. Here. Increase the morale. Oh, okay. Let's see. No, we're not upgrading the Liebstandarte to Adolf Hitler because it's right now in a good place. Let's do Florian Cavalry Division. That may remove those crappy or not SS cavalry units, but we'll get a good division out of that. 7th Panzer Division, I don't know that I want to do that either, or Brigade Goring. Let's look, just see where the Brigade Goring is. That's the beginnings of Panzer Lair. Okay, we still have these guys under Finkelin. He ain't a nice guy. Not that any of those guys were nice guys, but he very much wasn't. No. Oh, are they? They're back over here? Got a bit of a supply problem, as you can see. Let's look at the supply map here. Huh? No supply? Nope, can't supply that far in. Supply here? Okay. We will send supplies right up to there. See, I want to upgrade the units, but I don't want to pull them off if they're like somewhere essential. Dot. He was in this area. There he is. Yeah, we'll do that. Move in here. No, don't want to hit there. Okay. Brigade Hermann Goering, July 42. The regiment was upgraded to brigade status and redesignated the Hermann, or Brigade Hermann Goering. The unit will appear in Berlin. Okay. No, I think this is actually a better solution here. It'll take a little while to get it up there, but we can drop it further forward. So, still has a paratrooper unit in there, but it's not air mobile at all. There's some other decisions we should be making. 7th, not right now, I don't think, and definitely Standarte, I think, is... pretty sure it was right in here. Yeah. What is this? Ah, here. I want to get there with it. Everybody keep going forward. Supply more directly. This will open up supplies once we get connected there, but that's alright. That attack there. And they're going to support that attack. These guys are going to pound into there. Okay. This is sort of what I was waiting for. I think if there, did we just win this? No, what did we just, oh, here. We tried attacking here. What I'm hoping for is that they exhaust themselves and then we can counterattack. A few of these units will be beat up, but I'm hoping a couple of better ones will be able to counterattack. Okay, bunch of events. Yay. Okay. Oh. The Soyuz is lost, so there's been some action probably out in the Pacific. I lost that. Let's deal with what tech this is. Oh, research urban fighting equipment is finished. That is extremely useful. Extremely useful. So now, once everything is upgraded, I think it'll take through an upgrade process. A bunch of my units will be able to do urban combat much better. So that means places like Stalingrad may very well be still a pain in the ass, but not hopefully nearly as bad as one. Just not enough of those. Civil defense, who can do that? Okay. Division Azul arrives. The Blue Division. Great, from Spain. My understanding, which is most of them are veterans of the Spanish Civil War, arrived in Germany. It was made up of, I think, all active serving members in the Spanish Army, but I'm not absolutely sure of that. But they were all individual volunteers, meaning it wasn't a specific Spanish unit sent to serve in German service. And as it's saying, it was the Phalangists were. It was very an ideological unit, and I don't think that they had any significant ill will towards the, shall we say, Slavic peoples, the racial hatred that Hitler showed, but they were vehement anti-communists. and they basically had two uniforms for the unit. Whenever the unit was more or less up front at you know, fighting, they were always in German uniform because, for various reasons, but very heavily because of military law. Spain wasn't a combatant in the Spanish or in the war against Russia, so they were wearing German uniform. Generally speaking, when they were behind the lines, don't know how often or how much that was, they wore a more Spanish-looking uniform, or tried to, or wanted to. I mean, meaning they had an official uniform to wear. That, I'm not sure if they wore actually blue shirts, but which showed their more political loyalties to them, because a lot of them were, like it says, they're phalangists. And phalange is just simply basically the Spanish word for fascist. I know a lot of you guys are very well informed about this, but and I actually have just sort of on pause right now the State of the Union speech given by President Obama, and I've shown on the I know Hearts of Iron 4 forum some photos of Obama up in front of giving another speech in front of Congress, and pointed out all the fascist symbols that we have just in our Congress. And those buildings were decorated and done, I think decorated at least in the mid to late 19th century. America, the Constitution, the government, is very much founded upon the principles of the Roman Republic and the Roman Constitution. Not exactly, not precisely, and don't try to point it out how it's different, because I know it's significantly different. But it's sort of the principles of a constitutional republic, not a democracy of people voting. So we very much used fascist, or fascine, the fascisti, the bundle of rods and the axe in them, as part of America's tradition and symbols. When Mussolini comes onto the scene, his parents were vehement socialists. I don't know how revolutionary socialist, meaning sort of communist, they were, but they were vehemently socialist. They named their son Benito after Benito Juarez, the president of Mexico, who was a socialist and the main sort of hero fighting against the French, and Maximilian, which he was a exactly, I don't remember his relation to the Austrian emperor, but one of the basically imperial family that was to be the sort of puppet government in Mexico. So Benito Juarez was the sort of liberal leftist. I don't know that how, because he really also very much admired Abraham Lincoln, Benito Juarez. So I don't know how much of a socialist he was, but he definitely, a lot of the socialists adopted him as a hero, and that's how Mussolini gets the point. And so when Mussolini's coming onto the scene, you got to realize the sort of somewhat failing state of Italy, and I would say failing in the sense that it's moving from an agrarian society into an industrializing society, and didn't do so well in the war that they joined on, after switching sides, because they were originally part of the Central Powers, but didn't see the Central Powers spreading war to other countries as being a defensive pact, because that's how Italy understood the situation. But it was a royal and sort of Catholic governed society. Now, of course, the Catholics, the Pope is just short for Pontifex Maximus, which is a very ancient Roman title. But the sort of symbology of Italy was more royal, which of course the Romans themselves hated kings. We could go into that sometime. Wait for playing. I'm thinking of maybe doing a Total War Rome 2 series, though I don't think it's going to go daily. It may just go weekly or whatever, but I can go into some of that. But it looked more towards the, to some degree, the Bourbon monarchies of, like in Sicily and others. So in its symbology, so when Mussolini broke with his socialist traditions of international socialism, moved into ultra-nationalism while maintaining not all of the policies by any means, because he didn't want to nationalize major industries, meaning the government owned them. He wanted primarily them to be privately owned, whether by individuals or shareholders or whatever, but highly regulated by the government, by the state, and to the point of you will make X number of cars and only X number of cars, but no less than X number of cars, and not just as regulations in factory safety, minimum wages, some of the stuff that even most diehard capitalists nowadays would go, yes, we want, we don't want child labor, or we don't want, people are fighting very much in America about raising the minimum wage, and talk about the damage that it's going to do to employing teenagers, that we do want to have summer jobs or whatever. But some idea of a minimum wage, some idea, definitely we want, because I consider myself a type of capitalist, want, worker safety and all those good and positive things. So, but it's more than just regulating those type of things. It was a command economy that the fascists wanted and Mussolini wanted to do, while still allowing private ownership of the means of production, but putting it under state control. So he breaks with the symbology of the royal government, moves much more into the symbology of, and this is very, very much Mussolini and the early crowd of fascists that come up with using the Roman symbols, and particularly the fasciste, the fascine. I'm sort of pronouncing it several different ways as I understand sort of different cultural meanings of it. The rods were that if you were going to be punished, in the ancient world you didn't do jail so much, because people sort of lived in a lot of people lived in very poor conditions, so jails wouldn't necessarily be a punishment. So they did slavery was one sort of punishment. Another punishment was sort of people would walk the gauntlet, and you have people on either side, two lines of people, each with a rod in their hand, and people would have to go down to it. And as you went down, people would hit you with the rod, and could kill you, but normally just do a lot of damage as a punishment. And that sort of that. And then you also had the axe, which was also punishment of the state to chop your head off. And it also sort of has the meaning of, with the bundle together, that all those individual rods are strong as a group. So this symbology grows out of Italy's and Mussolini's fascism and spreads into the fascists in Spain, and their word for it is phalangist. So that just gives you a little history of these people. Talking with a few people, the left has, since World War II, much more so, come in to control the naming of things, and they sort of name everybody and call everybody on the right fascist. Spain was not a fascist state. Franco was not a fascist. Franco was a nationalist. Nationalist is basically, in very short terms, right-wing pragmatism. often coming out of a traditionalist background, but realizing that you're moving into a modern society, in which Spain was also going through a similar, moving from a primarily labor-intensive agrarian culture, meaning non-machines to do any sort of agrarian labor, moving into an industrialized society, which includes industrialized farming, which you little small farms are useless for that, so you have to move the people off the land. You can't just keep having people, well, I have my hoe, I'm going to my quarter acre, that's what I'm going to farm, and I'm going to live off of that. No, you can't do that in the modern world, unless you're just going to do a hobby gardener, but not produce enough food for the state. So you have to shift the society, and it causes a lot of trouble. It does in society, and because people are, at least temporarily, and maybe for a generation, ejected from the life that they know, and will they starve, or do you have some sort of support for them? So it's a really traumatic time, and this is why extremist philosophies in these conditions come about. So back to Spain, in that it was a nationalist government headed by Franco, that it did have fascists in the government. I believe the foreign secretary named or foreign minister, or whatever you want to call him, I'm missing the name. He was a phalangist. Several of the majors were phalangists. There were also and I don't know how many of them were sort of in government in significant positions, but open sort of monarchists. So it was the nationalists in Spain. It was a sort of right-wing coalition, if you will. Part of the fascism has a tendency also in there to be revolutionary and purist, and potentially causing a lot of trouble. I think the Blue Division was an honest desire by Franco and the Spanish government to help in the fight against international communism, that they wanted to contribute to that cause. That was an important thing, because they saw these guys as very evil and wanted to help. But I also think there was a element of, let's send a bunch of our rabid people out to go fight in a foreign war, so they won't be causing trouble at home. I think there was an element of that. Send out your hotheads, not necessarily in a very sort of cruel attempt to just get them all killed off. I don't think it was sort of that sort of blatant. I think it was more like, get them involved, have them go fight in the war. After fighting in another major war, they'll be coming home with less militancy. Veterans after a while get tired of fighting. So I think there was a lot of that. So the Blue Division, I would say, I'm just guessing here from vague memory, 30 to 40,000 members cycled through the division. I don't think it was nearly that strong at any one time. It was much more of a taking a certain amount of losses, wounds, frostbite, whatever, from the war, people going back, more volunteers coming into it, that kind of thing, cycling through its time. So we get the Blue Division. Yay. Okay. Armata Italia in Russia. Okay, the Italian army. They also made a major contribution to the war in the Soviet Union. Everyone recognized that the Soviet Union needed a major amount of manpower to fight it. And since at this time, when, in July 42 here, simply pouring more infantry divisions into the North African campaign wouldn't be helpful, because even if they were motorized, they would need more fuel for that, but they would need just more supplies. And the British were doing a reasonably good job at sinking convoys and other supplies. So even if you got more units into the war in North Africa, they just couldn't supply them well. So, we've talked about some of the various supply situations in which supply, I think, is an important element of the game. I think consuming of supplies by units, both just sitting there doing garrison duty in peacetime, true peacetime garrison duty, to supplying units in heavy fighting, should vary the amount of supplies, but they should all consume supplies, and consume more supplies either in winter or in the deserts or jungles, just because of the nature of the terrain, even just sitting there. More supplies moving than sitting, and more supplies in combat and whatever. That should be done, and I'm also talking about what my hopes are for eventual in Hearts of Iron 4, and also the limitations of supply, which are a good thing. It's just, unfortunately, the system that Hearts of Iron 3 has is broken in that they worry about moving supplies from the capital to the front, as opposed to just calculating, a unit here being supplied through this port, and this port we can supply X number of units, or or X number of supplies can flow into, and it depends on what they're doing to how much they need, whether they're in combat or not, etc., etc. Just figure all that out and not have to worry about the actual mechanics of trying to move the supplies is where I think it should go to, but nobody's directly asking me. So, get back to the point is that sending more into the limited front at this time would have been counterproductive. They had secured Greece. They had secured a good chunk of the Mediterranean under Vichy. The U.S. had yet to land. Obviously, if you open up supply routes, whether from Sicily or Sardinia to Tunisia, you can supply another whole set of troops over here. But obviously, if you're still sinking stuff, though, getting more and more over here gets it further away from based out of Malta or based out of Egypt being able to attack. And a lot of these waters in here are fairly shallow and fairly clear, that you could fly over and see a submarine 20 or 30 feet down, just cruising below the surface. When the top of it, because sometimes when you sort of little talk about some of the submarine movies, they talk about their depth. Well, their depth is more the bottom of the submarine as opposed to the top of the submarine, because that's, I guess, you have to judge the pressure on the most pressurized part. So if your conning tower is only 30 or 40 feet below the surface because of the height of it, you have a chance to spot those. And the Mediterranean at the time was clear enough that the British really had some trouble dealing with keeping hidden. I'm not saying way out here that they couldn't go deep enough, but they tried to catch ships coming in and out of ports and that kind of thing, and some of these Gulf areas just aren't deep enough to easily go down, and the sense in the water is much different than the Atlantic, which you could hide from the air much. Just get a little below the surface, and any search planes just can't see you unless they know right where to look. Here you sort of kind of can see them. So they still have some problems, but the front had yet to open up. So Italy's military might was sort of wasted there, and sort of like it is now, in that Italy is having some problems here, as we can see with some of these units here, which I think are going to run out of supplies. At least I hope they are, now that we've cut them off. But just simply sending in more divisions isn't necessarily the solution when your few supply ports can't handle anymore. So they're sending them off to fight for us. And like I said, they contributed a lot to the fight on the east, but they also contributed to Stalingrad's problems in that, I think it was the northern, but it may have been the sort of southern wing, was being held. One of them was by the Romanian army, or large sections by the Romanian army, and the other was large sections of the Italian army, and that's where the Soviets broke through. Both the Romanians, and which we're seeing here, some of these units having to retreat out, like this unit here that's retreating out. There's a Romanian unit that just didn't have the ability to withstand a good Soviet attack. Neither does the Italians. I like them because they're historical, and if you understand how to use them right, meaning if this division that's flowing out here, if I had them sitting here, I could easily be moving them through, unoccupied provinces, but also they could be stacked along with a German infantry division, and so now you have two divisions attacking whatever you would be attacking, relying maybe more on the heavy power of the German division, but also absorbing some of the casualties and doing some of the good would be the Italians or the Romanians. That's how you, if you were going to do, and we can discuss whether, a lot of mistakes made in Stalingrad, but holding the flanking lines, had they been interspersed with decent German units. Now you say, where do you get those units? Well, either you don't put them into the battle in Stalingrad. My idea would have been to encircle Stalingrad instead of try to fight your way into it. And that's early on. But the other thing is simply send some of the Italian and Romanian units, some of them, into Stalingrad and have them fight, which would obviously be a bloody fight, but have them fight in there and free up some of the German units to hold the flanks. So when the flanking attack happened, I think the Germans, had they done something like that, whether the Soviets would have been able to push them back, they very well might have, but it might have been, of course, Hitler probably would have said, no, don't evacuate Stalingrad, but maybe the local commanders would have decided to just be able to evacuate out through a corridor. So how you use them, so yes, we want them, we just have to be careful how we use them and not use them like the Germans did by giving large sections of the front to either Romanians or Italians to then have a Soviet counterattack and have them mess things up badly. So we have to just be careful and use them correctly. The arrival of the Soviet T-34 tank in greater numbers created increased strain on the Wehrmacht. One solution was to deploy more 88mm flak artillery at the front. These guns have powerful armor-piercing capabilities used against tanks. If needed, 10 motorized flak divisions will become available, which can be rushed forward. Okay. One IC for 1% of the ICs for basically a month. Supplies, 5% of supplies, and money for 1 month. Lose some manpower to do them and some supplies. We're going to take them. Had a little bit of a back and forth on the Black Ice forum boards about this, and the other poster, T-34s were not, weren't so great or whatever. I was saying, well, they're not super tanks, but their effect shocked the German army. So, and Panzeroo, the leader of the Black Ice Project, his part of the comment was what was really one of the really great things about them was that they were the right tank for the Soviet Union, in meaning the ability to produce tanks, because the Soviets weren't really set up to produce high-tech tanks at the time like the Germans could. They were easy to produce in mass numbers, and they were easy to learn to drive for the Soviet crews, that weren't people coming from a driving culture. A lot of them were peasant kids who may have known how to drive a wagon, but didn't necessarily know how to drive a truck. Were put into these things. So they were the sort of the great tank for the Soviet use, and they obviously won the war with them. So, and I agree with that point as well as the point that they're not necessarily better than German tanks, but they were better than the immediate ability of the German tanks to deal with them. Obviously, the German tanks improved armor, improved gun capabilities, and then were able to deal with them. and because they had other modern coordinated systems that they were better, better gun sights, better crew comfort, better crew management of the tank, so that the Germans, I agree, are better tanks, and they're not, the T-34s are not super tanks, but they caused a major shock to the German army when they came out. And when you look at photos of the time, and I sort of have one that I to make for a similar sort of event, but for TRE, but it's never been used, I don't think, is Albert Speer climbing all over a captured T-34. You don't get the armaments minister inspecting every little enemy vehicle unless it's something that's a shock to the system. He's not the tank designer. He's just the guy who says, oh, X amount of steel gets to show up at what factory. No, it was such a shock to the system that the guy who's managing, not designing weapon systems, not dealing with, the minutiae of the details, but managing the system is climbing all over a captured tank. So it was a shock to the system. So yeah, we'll take this and we'll move these up there, and hopefully they will be useful. SS Free Will and Battalion North. North, but North. Okay. Finnish volunteers. Yes, we will take some Finnish volunteers for our SS. Romanian-German Mile Agreement. I don't know why we haven't had this before or whatnot, but yes, we want that. I think that maybe just be repeated. Swedish volunteers, yes, we will take those. They were put into the SS, so we will get that. Changing command. Okay. Okay, this is one of those. Make your decision. Lose some officers, gain some dissent, but we already have 5 dissent, so we're going to lose some NSDAP organization. Reward our heroes, yes. We want to do that, which we'll just, now we just lost 1, we're going to gain back 5 popularity, so it'll be a total of 4 plus. Okay, Kiev is ours. Where's Kiev? Is this it? Lots and lots of events are showing up here. Well, with all of these events, I'm going to end this episode now because it's taken too long, and continue them in the next episode. Thanks for viewing. We will be continuing this next episode. I think this is Kiev, but okay. Thanks for liking the videos, and please post your comments. Do want to hear